You're connected on Ethernet. You don't need Wi-Fi.
We're live.
I can't.
Families,
Yes.
welcome to the internet. We all bring our families. I bet my cat will turn up asking to go outside. Very normal family stuff. And so thanks everyone for being here. We'll start seeing some people rolling in. We always love to find out who is from where. So yeah, please. And we're here for all the questions and everything that you will have today. Great. Let me bring up the chat here. Fantastic. So this is our third webinar about Source Connect 4. The first one was an introduction just about Source Connect. And the second one was about restore and replace, which we may touch again on today because it's such important and belongs everywhere. And then we also have the big one, which is really exciting to show today, which is remote transport sync, which is synchronization of timelines. Great to see you all coming in today. Thank you. So I'm Rebecca. I'm the CEO and tech co-founder of Source Elements. Like Robert, we started next year's our 20th anniversary. And so, yeah, and Robert, what keeps you busy during the day and night?
Everything. I don't know. Audio. I do audio all the time,
Yeah.
some way, one way or the other. I like
Yes.
doing audio.
Robert's our head inventor, and as I always like to tell people, it's his fault that this whole thing exists. I just make the damn thing.
I made a mess. Yeah.
Great, wonderful mess. So let's just get straight into it. So Source Connect 4 is obviously the successor of Source Connect 3, and we rebuilt it from scratch, really mostly because of what we saw during the pandemic, seeing that roles and ways of working have changed so much now. And one of the big things that happened there, of course, was knowing that we needed to talk to more people. So we have up to 6 connections now, including yourself. It's really built just to work on Windows and Mac perfectly, and at the same time, feature parity on Windows and Mac. And it's mostly also built for thinking of the future. So what we're showing today, we like to consider like the Source Connect 3 replacement, but you're going to find very quickly that we're able to add features and functionality with this version. And so a lot of updates will be coming, a lot of new features. What we're going to be rolling out in 2025 is going to be very exciting. And so what we have today with Remote Transport Sync is kind of a historical look back, because it's a feature that's been there since when? 2007, Robert?
It was the second feature, I believe, after just the basic. I believe it was a connection. Then we went stereo, and then we did remote transport sync. I believe were the rollout, and that was 2007 that remote transport sync was released.
Yeah. And where did Remote Transport Sync come from? Refresh my memory, because that was a long time ago.
Well, it's just the need to, as when we were doing ISDN connections, and every few sessions you would have one where you needed to sync up or, you know, use time code and sync picture. ADR typically was what it was, and we were just trying to think of a more efficient way to do it. Especially back then, no one was syncing to anything without using hardware for LTC. Um, and so we decided to use. I thought, ReWire. You can sync 2 applications inside the same computer. Hey, why can't you sync them across the internet? And so let's abuse ReWire was the idea, and it worked out fairly well. But there were some unforeseen differences that we, made ReWire a little bit foreign to some users in terms of the music settings. Like, I didn't need to match tempos before when I used time code. Well, now you do, or now you did with ReWire or Song Start, and some of those things were different. But the nice thing about ReWire is that it was so embedded in the industry, you could pretty much assume every DAW worth its salt had ReWire in it, and that was the attraction
Yeah,
that
no,
we.
definitely. But what do we need to sync for in the first place? What is the purpose of synchronizing timelines?
Mainly two big reasons. One would be ADR sessions, dialogue replacement, or reading anything in sync with any. It doesn't have to be picture. It could be, you know, working in sync with music, working in sync with picture. So that's one of the biggest purposes, and the most traditional. And the other one was for review and approval sessions, especially back in the day. But even now, if you're really running a high-end review and approval session that's for audio review and approval, streaming the picture over the internet is just highly inefficient compared to syncing timelines. And then both sides can look at whatever 12K picture, and it doesn't matter because the picture's perfect.
So
And the
what do you
only thing
mean by
that's,
inefficient?
well, in post production, if you're working on a picture, the picture's locked. It's not going to change. So you're going to sit there and stream the same picture over and over again, burning bandwidth, exposing that picture to the ups and downs and the pitfalls of the internet, locking picture and having that playback locally on either side provides the best picture experience for both
Yeah,
sides.
yeah. You're not going to get
Yeah.
pixelation or those frame rate dropouts. And you can, like you said, see it at that best quality on your big screen, especially if you've got clients in the room. You can really rely on that playback. Yeah,
Yep.
no, absolutely. And at the moment, what we're going to show today with Remote Transport Sync in version 4 is mix review mode. Let's talk a little bit about
Mm,
that.
sure. So um, the original remote transport sync, and what we're still getting that feature in, it was called ADR mode. And the way remote transport sync works is that the sender controls the receiver's transport, and then depending on where the sender presses play determines the direction of sync, because you can't have two sides be in sync with each other at the same time. One side has to chase the other. If both sides were in sync with each other at the same time, then we would have defeated space and time, and we would be a much bigger company.
Yeah, I
Um,
like to say we would have invented a time machine. At which
right.
point I'm gone. I've gone to see the future. So bye, everyone.
That's right.
Let's hope. I'm really
um,
curious what future music is. But anyway,
so
right.
one side chases the other, but just because one side chases the other, the workflow doesn't always dictate that once the side that is being chased, um, or sorry, the side that's chasing, that's one of the things about that was nice about the original implementation of RTS, and what we will get back shortly is, previously if you were just pushing time code, then the side that was pushing time code had to run the transport. Whereas with overdub mode, you could control the transport of the other side, but still chase them. And that
Yeah.
was a very convenient feature. But unfortunately, without that right now, we'll have that in a couple months, I'm sure. But for now, Rebecca, you have your two hats. You are talent
Yes.
and engineer
Yeah.
simultaneously.
I can handle it. I've been practicing.
Yeah, and
Uh,
this is it's kind of interesting because the overdub mode honestly didn't take off as much as we thought it would. And the reason why is because traditionally ADR sessions, an actor goes to a studio and there's an engineer there. And the way it was done before Source Connect with ISDN, the side where the talent was, the engineer ran the transport, and all things being sort of, just working in similar ways to the way we're working previously, the engineer is with a lot of ADR sessions, even if the overdub mode was there, most sessions would still run in traditional review mode, where the side receiving and chasing was really reviewing what the talent side was doing.
right.
And
No,
that's
absolutely.
what we're going to show.
So, since with ReWire being gone, and we decided to do the two next best things, LTC being linear time code and MTC being MIDI time code. So LTC obviously has been a staple in the industry since probably not analog days, no, but since digital in the 80s, maybe. Do you know much about the history of LTC? I don't. It's a
You know what?
SMPTE
Yeah, it's simply
protocol.
I imagine LTC shows up somewhere between the late 60s and 70s. It's pretty old, and
If anyone here on the chat knows,
yeah,
now I'm interested. Want to do,
yeah.
I get a bit of
Google it.
history.
When was
Yeah,
LTC
yeah.
invented?
Yeah, and in AMTC we know in the 80s because that's when MIDI protocol was
MIDI,
invented, and
right?
I feel I know a lot more about the MIDI protocol because obviously I've had many years connecting instruments together and getting them to talk to each other. So MIDI and MIDI machine control and all those text messages and everything have been important to musicians. So it's pretty nice for me now as we go out with Source Connect 4 that we support these two protocols, because now we're able to say to both the post and music industry, hey, we've got you covered right now with whatever you're comfortable with, which I think is the next special announcement, that what we've built is a magic timecode codec that talks
Essentially,
both.
yeah. So you can, in our setup, you'll see that Rebecca will input LTC into Source Connect using a lovely plugin from Dolby because she doesn't actually have the Avid sync hardware over there. So there's the MT or the LTC generator. And then on my side, again, on my laptop here, I don't have the Avid sync hardware, but I will output MTC. And previously, if one side had MTC and the other side had LTC, they had to figure out between each other, what are we going to use? How are we going to use it? And the setup was much more complex to try to agree on that. But here, one of the
Yeah.
great things about the new RTS feature is that it literally just translates that time code to whatever the other side needs to use. It can input anything, MTC, LTC. We'll be adding, ideally, more other ways of counting time in the future, not
Satellite
just
and other
satellite,
things.
right?
Yeah. Hey, 9 pin.
Um, Nine
I know.
pin, that's a throwback.
People still
Definitely.
ask for it. There's still a need for that. What if you want to
Really?
do like air gapped sync?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's becoming important these days. We need to go back, like Glenn, you were saying, the old analog days, for
We
the air gapped security requirements these days. Yeah.
9 pin. Oh, it'll be interesting. I mean, that would be, maybe we do 9 pin. I thought 9 pin, especially with like things like satellite, 9 pin was starting to really go away. But
Yeah, I know. I'm
and
joking. I'm
yeah.
joking, everyone. Don't worry. I'm not. Yeah. But
Yeah.
suffice to say, we now have Source Connect 4 has a new codec, a timecode codec that the two protocols that it supports at present are LTC and MTC. And Robert, would you say that this is, in the end, we're presenting a better service or product to our customers than ReWire?
I think so. So, ReWire, I think, was a very innovative approach, and I think it had lots of advantages. But we also ran into a lot of technical issues. And the first one was that we were abusing ReWire in the first place. Like we said, ReWire is designed to work inside one computer and synchronize applications inside the same
Yeah.
computer. And me, I don't know, I don't know what I was smoking that day. I'm like, who cares? Why can't we do it between two different computers over the internet? And
Just
that
messages.
worked. Yeah, and it worked fairly well, but we ran into issues. For example, Source Connect, over time, we realized it really needed to be an external application. But then being an external application to the DAW created some little communication hops. And generally moving ReWire over the internet also created some communications. And so while ReWire was supposed to be sample accurate, which we believed would be more accurate than timecode, it turned out that ReWire really ended up being about quarter frame accurate, which was pretty much
Yeah.
what timecode was offering. But then the other thing about ReWire is that even though it was like, oh, you just have to put a plugin down, you don't have to go into your preferences and set anything up in your DAW, you don't have to have any hardware. That was the dream. What we then also realized was that ReWire was highly dependent on a lot of music things. So while you didn't have to set up these preferences in the DAW, there were timecode preferences in the DAW. There were other preferences that you did have to set in the DAW. You
Yeah.
had to make sure that your song starts lined up. You had to make sure that your tempos lined
Nightmare.
up. And what kind of ended up happening is that a fair chunk of the industry would say, I'm just going to send timecode down the right channel because I've been doing that for the last 40 years, and I know that, and I like that, and it's easier for me. And they would not use the ReWire feature, um, or it was harder to air gap things with ReWire compared to timecode. So there's reasons why, I don't know, it was like 50-50. Sometimes people would use ReWire, sometimes people would still
Yeah.
fall back to LTC on a second channel, which, you know, LTC does have its downsides. If you send LTC on a stereo connection, you can't send boom and lav. So the nice thing about having a dedicated timecode method, be it the old RTS or the new one, is that you can send a stereo connection, boom and lav, and still have timecode sync. So those are all kind of advantages of using a dedicated timecode system instead of sort of brute force pushing timecode down an audio channel. And then the other issue with pushing audio or timecode down an audio channel is you're really exposing it to all the ups and downs of the internet. So beyond having to figure out your audio routing, you don't want to cross paths and have timecode blasting someone in their speakers, and things like that. Making sure, you know, like people sometimes would have trouble separating their audio output because they were using a plugin, but the plugin couldn't separate left and right. It was both or none. And so, yeah, it was like some people used ReWire, some people used timecode. ReWire has gone away, unfortunately, I think, personally.
Apple Silicon, by the way, it wasn't something we did.
Yeah, right. Well, it wasn't like propeller heads who made ReWire
Reason.
had to
No.
make Reason, right? They make Reason, and Propeller Heads is the company, and they had to make whatever calculus decision they had to make, and they decided to end ReWire. And so
Yep.
we had to come up with a new way, and we thought, well, a lot of people were using timecode, a lot of people were having trouble setting up a ReWire. We'll make timecode better than just sending timecode down the right channel.
Yeah.
So with the timecode codec, we are as resilient as ReWire was, as far as passing that time across the connection without being exposed to the internet, without using extra bandwidth, without using channels that you might be able to use for extra microphones. And we think we have kind of the best of both worlds here.
Yeah. Yeah, so you know, in summary, we have an integrated method that is equally accurate, and but uses less data. And you know, with our custom timecode codec, you know, you get LTC between your connections better than any other method of sending LTC. It handles errors better. It won't drop out. It's really amazing, and it supports offset and freewheel. We'll show that because it does regeneration. We have special error correction.
And
that reads
and another really big feature that people were always asking for, you can have a multiple connections, and you can send review to all of them simultaneously, which
yes,
was not
that's
previously
special.
possible with
Yeah.
with ReWire, because ReWire was more peer client, or however you state it, a server client relationship. It was kind of a one-to-one thing, or A to B. Yep.
Great. Well, let's jump in and do a demo. So for me,
Do you want to show your setup first?
Yeah.
Like
So
side? Okay.
we're going to
Yeah.
show how in what's Robert's one? Let me switch. Here.
I switched over to
That's
that
all right.
because I.
Oh yeah. There we go. This is my
All right.
setup here. So you see, I've got Source Connect here with the RTS. Already got it primed, but and just for those of you actually who've been beta testing, have been asking how can you make it smaller, and there's this really useful little button here. So, but I'll make it bigger just for now. So I'm going to have input from LTC, and you can see I'm sending an LTC from my Source Nexus A driver input 2. That's how I've got it set it up in Pro Tools. I've set my frame rate, and I don't need an offset here.
Right.
And
she has to match the frame rate of her DAW. Very important.
We're going to put an auto, you know,
auto detect
check for that. Right. Right. So now here we go to Pro Tools, and all I need to do.
Well, you don't need to do anything in there.
No, actually, I didn't. I just had my Pro Tools. Yeah, I've got my Dolby LTC generator sitting here on an aux track.
Yep.
And I'm sending it out Source Nexus to channel 2. You can send that to Source Connect any way that you want. You know, you've got the aux
You can also
bridge.
use the
You've
link
got
plugin.
the link plugin. Yeah, lots of ways to do this. So that's really great. And then what will happen? So Robert and I, are we connected? No,
we're not
so
connected.
If you want to go
Here,
ahead and
let me
connect.
throw a connection at you. One moment. Amber. Boop.
I'm Amber today. And I'm getting a
I'm
call from Martin. I'm going to accept it. And then takes 3 to 5 seconds. Same as Source Connect 3. 3 seconds there. We're connected now. I'm muted right now because I'm just talking on the YouTube platform. But we'll see here.
We'll switch over.
Yeah, we'll switch in a bit. Just going to make that a bit smaller. Also, I'm going to bring up always on top so that we can always stay there while I'm showing this demo. And go back to Pro Tools, and you should see that I'm now sending LTC. So easy.
Yep.
So easy. Yeah. And let's switch to Robert's side now.
All right. So on my side, I'm on just a laptop, literally. And so here's my Source Connect, and I'll make that bigger. So over here is my LTC or my RTS panel, and I am receiving as MIDI timecode out to the MTC to DAW device is what I'm receiving timecode on. And simple as that. I am using an offset because of some routing delays that exist on Rebecca's system, routing microphones and whatnot. And so if I go over to Pro Tools here, the only thing I really need to do is in my preferences, and this is just the way Pro Tools does it. Each DAW is different, not preferences, but peripherals. And you'll notice here, synchronization, and my MTC read port is MTC to DAW. So with that set, all I have to do, as is normal with Pro Tools, is put it online or Command J, and that will make it receive timecode. So let me pull Source Connect up here and make it small again. And we'll put that down here. So Rebecca, I've selected receive here.
You need to move your Source Connect to the left of your channel because you've got your cameras on top of it. There you go, just to the left. There you go.
Like there?
Right. Yep, that's good.
So Rebecca, if you hit play, as the engineer Rebecca, if you hit play, there it is. I'm chasing timecode from Rebecca. Simple as that.
Of course, I can go anywhere in the timeline. 6 minutes. Maybe I can go further. Yep, 18 hours. Easy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
too far away.
Way over here in the blank space way down there.
Yeah, there's nothing there. The abyss. All right, let me make my timeline bigger. There we go. All right, now that's a bit more normal. Yeah, so I mean, just with something so simple as that now, I can put on my engineering hat and control Robert's timeline and also be the talent. And maybe we could do a couple of lines. We've got this great trailer here from a movie that I love from 2006 called Stranger Than Fiction, because I adore Emma Thompson and I get to be Emma Thompson just for a little bit. However, bear in mind, every actor who's watching this, I'm not an actor. So it might be a little bit out of sync. I do my best I can. I've been practicing, but
you're acting that you're an actor right now.
Exactly. I'm a very good actor to be an actor. All right. So what I'm going to do now is unmute myself. And now you're coming into Source Connect. Robert.
Right. So now you're flowing through the broadcast.
I'm not hearing you out of Source Connect. Can you check that you're send, please?
No, I'm talking to you.
Talk back.
So I'm talking to you on Source Connect. And if you see Rebecca now, you'll notice that she's extremely out of sync because she's going through my computer.
Yeah.
So
all right.
I'm set to go, by the way. So whenever you want to roll that take, we'll see how it looks. No pressure.
All right. So yeah, pressure. All right, we're going to start from here. And let's see if I can get this line. It has to be really on the nose. Okay. First try.
I'm the assistant your publishers hired.
The publishers think I have writer's block. Oh, nailed it. Sorry. Did it. Perfect the first time. But no,
I think you're still sending your scratch track.
I think I have writer's block, an actor.
Rebecca, I think you're still sending your scratch track. Can you do that one more time, but mute your scratch track?
Yeah. Okay, maybe that's why I thought I got it, but it was actually her. That's okay. Right.
Once
Okay,
more
let's
with
mute it
you.
now. Let's do it again.
I'm the assistant your publishers hired.
The publishers think I have writer's block.
You have writer's block?
And that was really good,
All right.
Rebecca.
Yeah.
I
Can
think
you
that
play
was
that
right
back
on.
to me?
I can. So I am. Well, I'll go back to my Source Connect settings really quick here just to show everybody. But over here, there's my mouse. My input is LTC, easy enough. And all I have to do is switch to send, and all Rebecca has to do is switch to receive on her side, and now
Which
she
I
will.
am.
Yep. Put that out of the way. And now all I have to do is hit play, and Rebecca will hear my playback in sync with her system. So
Yep.
we've literally just reversed the direction of sync.
I'm the assistant your publishers hired.
The publishers think I have writer's block.
You have writer's block?
Oh, I did pretty good.
You did. Absolutely.
All right. First take. This is the win. Am I hired?
You are hired. I think all the actors out there now need to worry.
No, definitely. Yeah. So all the things that I have left to do in my life, and one of them is not acting. Good luck. Not going to see me on the stage. All right. So there's another part a bit further on that I like, and this isn't so much lip sync, but it's got comedic timing, and I think it could be another good example if we go back.
Yeah, I think this is a good example of like more of a promo kind of workflow. Like not an ADR kind of implies that it's picture sync, but you also have a lot of things like, next on Fox, Bart eats a Butterfinger, and then things jump in and out. And that's what this kind of shows, this sort of voiceover part of this trailer. So Rebecca, whenever you're ready, I'm ready.
Okay. Harold found himself exasperated.
Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry. I did not. I was not ready. I lied. One more time. Sorry. I'm ready.
How do I control your record button? Do we put that in one day?
We don't. There's a lot of things that we have in mind like that. So yes, that would be cool.
Great.
But,
okay. Here we go again.
About me accurately and with a better vocabulary.
Harold found himself exasperated, cursing the heavens in futility.
No, I'm not. I'm cursing you, you stupid boy. So shut up and leave me alone.
Yeah.
There you go. Good. Perfect. What a great flick.
It's fun. Should watch it.
Definitely. So, and that could be the whole
Christmas
trailer.
movie.
Yeah, that could be the whole trailer.
Yeah.
Just, read all the bits in and out, sync to picture, check ADR lines. It's I think it's much easier than the previous setup, and definitely much easier than trying to route time code on a channel. We could, if Rebecca had two microphones, I could be recording in stereo. Boom and lavalier would be a traditional setup, for example.
And we could also do multi-channel because Source Connect 4 supports 24 channels. Showing that today would be tricky because all of our routing is already set up, but I think we'll do another one on the we'll do a webinar just on the multi-channel. I think that would be really, really interesting. We've got some things up our sleeve left to show you guys all there as well. And so again, just to summarize, I think it's important just to go back to let me just go back here, just get the timer back. There we go. So why we won't send LTC down the line, for example, just remind me again.
It's just inefficient. It eats a channel, exposes the time code to errors, is more complex to set up from a routing standpoint. It makes it so that the other side also has to use LTC or figure out on their own how they're going to convert if they don't want to use LTC to some other method. I think that's all the reasons. There might be some others, but those are the biggest reasons.
So, and if I'm a talent, how is this initial version of RTS going to help me? What am I going to be able to, like what we just did here, there's still maybe a lot to learn here for a talent, and we're just focusing next to get out the overdub mode, which may be easier to wait for that.
Yeah, the overdub mode will be really that's where essentially the talent can operate in a vacuum without having to have an engineer there, because the controlling side or the send side can kind of run the transport, and therefore the talent can focus on what they do, which is acting.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. So Brad here, I see you've been asked these questions, and it's really great that you're here today. As some of the others have noted, this today was really a presentation for the engineering side of RTS. And we are early next year going to be doing an absolute full webinar just on all the talent stuff, which could go on for 3 hours because there's so much to share, but you always have so many questions, and I'm sorry if we're not able to fully cover that for you today.
A good example for the talent side, for example, is that we currently have a product called Remote Timeline, and that works with the original RTS. And Remote Timeline will be coming back in its new form. And so the way it'll look for talent is that if they're using our full system, the talent doesn't have to have a DAW or Pro Tools. They will be able to receive a embedded picture or video that has the player built into it that will respond to the time code, respond to RTS. We just don't have the remote timeline updated yet. So it's still remote timeline and the overdub mode are to follow shortly in 2025.
Yeah, great. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the core of it, and we're going to get to starting some of these questions now, which you've had here. So just coming back here, Mike Aiton. Hey, Mike, love to see you. Have been intrigued to see if it constantly synchronizes. There's no ability to drop back to a resolved speed. Do you understand that question, Robert? Engineer between engineer?
There's no, let me see if I can see his question. I'm seeing that.
It's from 15 minutes ago, his first question there. I'm intrigued to see if RTS constantly synchronizes, as there's no ability to drop back to a resolved speed. Not sure we fully understand.
You're, like, I would say this. The connection comes in kind of virtually clocked, meaning let's say that you have your time code on your generate side resolved to house sync. So your leading edge of the time code is right on the frame, perfectly resolved, and you output that time code into Source Connect. It will still be resolved to your audio that you're feeding into time code, because that's the whole point of house sync. And so all that audio goes over to, say, Rebecca. And let's say Rebecca's clock is not really 48. It's really like 47.899 or something. Well, Rebecca's going to unload those packets at 48.899 sample rate. And so her time code will be resolved on her side, just like it was resolved on your side when you put it in. It will come out resolved, even if your clocks are not the same. You're kind of virtually locking clocks in a sense, even though they're not the same, because they can't be the same. They're two different computers. So I hope that answered Mike's question.
Yeah, Mike, ask more if you want. We'll get back to you as well. Chilimbe Washington says comments to us that he wants to make Source Connect a critical part of his pipeline. Fantastic, we love to hear that. And you're using gen block in line with the screenplay, which you'll assembly and edit after script lock. These are words you understand, Robert?
I think gen lock. So gen lock and house sync are a similar thing, the same thing really. So can you read that one more time again, or maybe I can?
Using gen lock in line with the screenplay, and of which then he will assembly and edit after script lock. Thank God, script lock.
Okay, so I don't totally follow all of it in regards to script, but yeah, if his video is gen locked to his audio hardware, or vice versa, his audio hardware more like is gen locked to the video, then indeed that will stay locked, as so much as that when you output time code, I don't think you're going to get gen lock time code from MTC. So to get any sort of gen lock type of workflow, it's going to be LTC probably. And if you input LTC into your reader and it reads that time code and then generates a clock based on that for your hardware, indeed, you are gen locked.
Great. Chillimbo, I hope that answers your question. Happy to discuss more. So Coop Studio says, and I like this, no more 0000000 session time start time required.
Correct.
No.
You can use
Go
your
crazy.
offsets.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. And it also means, what about delay compensation?
So we're both on delay compensation right now, and it works without
Mine's
an
off.
issue. Yours is off? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if that is. I mean, you're on such a simple session right now. I don't think it's like there's much delay to deal with within it. I mean, the delay is in the Nexus route. But yeah, you should. As far as the workstation handling its time code with or without, what do you call it? Delay compensation. It's the same thing, because really the workstation has no idea this time code's coming from the internet or where it feels like a local thing to the workstation. So I know of no reason why you can't chase time code with delay compensation on it. It all lines up.
Also, if you've got a sync IO, then it's all hardware and you can do what you like in the software. So, it depends on that setup as well, right?
Yeah, but I mean, specifically as far as what do you call it, delay compensation goes, which is in Pro Tools to handle, I've got 8 plugins that had so much latency that now my mixer isn't in sync within itself. That is, I don't think that affects, like, Pro Tools handles the time code properly with delay compensation on, and as much as it handles it properly with delay compensation off, it's just that anything that's got latency in it will be off because of that latency if you turn off delay compensation.
Yeah, of course. Great. And Hans Buff, nice to see you here, Hans. Do all users have to use the same DAW? Good question.
No.
Yeah.
No. You could, if you had a hardware controller that could drive a old 24 track like a Lynx system, or a Zeta Smith or something, some old school like hardware controllers, you could drive a 2-inch analog deck with this if you wanted to, or a video 3/4 inch machine or whatever, as long as you have whatever reads hardware, be it software, whatever reads time code, be it software or hardware, this is going to work.
Yep. I think we're going to be spending a lot of time developing tutorials for all the main DAWs like Logic and, Nuendo and all those. And then, if there's something that, anyone wants to know about their DAW, we're information nerds. We love to learn as well and develop tutorials and figure out how things work. It's super interoperable. It's anywhere you've got MIDI, right? Any MTC?
Yeah, like go back to the 80s and it'll work because it's MIDI.
Right. Yeah. Those DAWs from the 80s. Yes. Mike, so you were saying that the talent was responsible for, me. I was responsible for my own sync as Robert was chasing me, so that I was not in sync coming to him. Yes, so at the beginning, because we'll go back to the differences between mixed review and overdub mode. I was effectively doing overdub mode, but manually. Ideally, and this is what's coming next, Robert will have a control that he can put his hand all over the internet and press the play button on my Pro Tools. So I have to do that right now and be the talent. It's a small thing. It won't be long before we've got overdub mode, but this is how Source Connect 3 worked. So yes, I did have to be in charge of pushing that sync to Robert at this time. Hope that helps.
Yeah, you had to control the transport, but when we have the overdub mode, I'll be able to control the transport, and then you can only be the actor. Actress. Reaper,
Gary, good question. Yeah. What happens if the internet connection is dropping when RTS is locked? Great question.
It will. So that's the reason why the codec works so well.
Yeah.
So it has a freewheel. You could even jam sync it, and it will keep on going and you won't lose, you know, it won't stop a record. And then the auto restore and auto replace feature will fill in any of the audio that didn't arrive when the internet dropped, but you won't lose time sync when that happens, because, or so much as you set your freewheels, or if you use jam sync, you just
Yeah,
it won't
exactly.
stop. And yeah,
Yeah. If your internet's that bad, JamSync might be the way to go. Yeah.
that'd be, yeah.
And Shipley Studio Center says, can we go over the generation of timecode and how it's routed into Source Connect? Shall I show my screen again on that?
I can show mine if you'd like.
Yeah. Oh, you've got
yeah.
LTC coming in?
I got both LTC, so
Perfect.
I can kind of show both
Okay.
setups,
Let me
because
bring
we've
that
done our
up.
demos. So if I break stuff, it
Yeah,
doesn't
good.
matter now.
All right. Here we go.
So basically, down here I have. I'll first show the LTC setup. Because we don't have hardware, I just have this Dolby LTC generator plugin, and when you hit play, you can see it generates timecode. And I am taking that timecode, and I'm just popping a Nexus IO plugin on it and sending it off to Nexus A1. I think it's A1 I have there. Yeah, A1. So over here in Source Connect, under the RTS panel, which is over here on the right, my input right here is LTC, and it is Nexus A1. And that's how I'm getting LTC into Source Connect. Now, if I didn't want to use LTC and I wanted to use MTC, it would be as follows. Go to Peripherals, and under the generate, or synchronization, and then MIDI MTC generate, I'm going to use my MTC from DAW device. So that is set. And then in Pro Tools, I will pull up my full transport window. Actually, maybe I can do it here. Can I see everything? Okay. Where is it? MIDI controls, synchronization. There we go. So now that I have my synchronization, I can hit this button here, which will tell Pro Tools to generate MTC. And then back over to Source Connect, I will pick, instead of LTC as my input, I will pick MTC, and specifically MTC from DAW. So now that I'm generating here, if I hit play in the DAW, why?
You're on receive mode.
Oh, I'm on, right, thank you. There we go. I got to put myself in send mode.
But you click twice.
So there it is. And then now I'm generating time code through MTC instead of LTC.
Yep. And it says on my side now too, because Source Connect knows, it says I'm receiving MTC, whereas before it told me I was receiving LTC. It's helpful to know the difference.
You were always receiving MTC because you were chasing. We don't have LTC chase hardware, so the whole time you were. If you switch yours to LTC, you will see receiving LTC.
Great. Yep. Great.
So there's the. And then the reverse applies. That I think they asked specifically about the timecode input, but basically the output is the reverse of that. You pick your device. If it's audio, send it to some audio device and off to the timecode reader. Or if it's MTC, you send it to the MTC device that is being read by your DAW, which in my case, back to peripherals, is right there, MTC to DAW. Which, by the way, to complete the setup, how do you set up those devices? Some might want to know. That is, at least on Mac, that is done in the Audio Utilities program, or whatever you call it. So here in Audio MIDI, the IAC device, which stands for Inter-Application, and if I double click on it, this is where I created the MTC to DAW and MTC from DAW. You just use this plus button down here. And don't forget to make sure the device is online.
Really important. We do have tutorials for that stuff if you get stuck. Oh, and of
Yep.
course, we've got our excellent support who can help on anything.
If you
Just while
one last note really quick. If you don't see the device in Pro Tools, you have to make sure to go over to Pro Tools input devices and make sure it's checked off.
there you
That
go.
sometimes is another thing.
Yeah. So many tricks we have to know. Just while we're here on this, Glenn had another question about if there's a benefit for MTC versus LTC. Yeah, good question. In terms of
Not
Source
really.
Connect, Source Connect doesn't care. So it's personal, up to you and your equipment. I would be my answer.
Yeah, there's no really. I think the one benefit of LTC over MTC is that with the proper hardware, you can have gen-locked
Yes.
setups that everyone is talking about. And these are the whole gen-lock thing is something that you run into in typically in bigger post houses. They have multiple rooms all running Pro Tools, and they want to make sure that everything in the whole building is on the exact same clock. That's what gen-lock or house sync is about.
Right. And then also related to the setup, another great question from Andy at Buzzies. Hey, Andy. Does Source Connect 4 still require Pro Tools at pre and post roll is off?
No. It will just chase time code and, just like any other time code source, if it was coming from a tape deck or anything locally, the DAW will run and have no idea that this time code is coming from across the internet. So there aren't those caveats that used to exist with ReWire, where you had to make sure things like the zero session start and things like that.
Yeah.
Those don't exist.
Let's dive back into the question of the DAWs. So we've had some people here check in about what their DAWs are. And of course, we've got ReWire. ReWire will do 100% all of this, no problem. And
in fact, like Reaper, I believe it has its own LTC generator built into it.
Yes,
without using the
that's
Dolby
true.
plugin.
Yep. Fairlight.
I don't know Fairlight as well, to be honest. I'm sure that Fairlight has LTC hardware because it has that, and I'm pretty sure Fairlight probably does. The new Fairlight probably does support MTC, but honestly, I've not used Fairlight with MTC. I don't know. I assume it does, but I don't know that for sure.
Logic.
Yes, it can generate or chase MTC. I believe with Logic to chase LTC or do anything with LTC, it would be through typically your MIDI hardware. If you have, like, for example, a Mo2 MIDI timepiece or something like that, it would that's how you would chase LTC or generate LTC. But typically Logic is going to be running with MTC in, I think, most situations.
Would say the same for Nuendo and Cubase?
Again, Nuendo's got a lot of its own hardware, and so it supports both. And I would imagine the facilities that are set up with Genlock and the hardware, they're going to prefer to use LTC, and the smaller setups or the more nimble desktop setups will probably be doing MTC, I would guess. And Cubase especially, it's more of a MIDI sequencer, and then Cubendo, it's all the same kind of thing. But
yeah. And then we have some sort of different ones like Adobe Audition.
MTC, I don't know what support Adobe Audition has for LTC at all. I would expect that one to be MTC. And similarly with Studio One, I would expect that to be MTC.
Yep. And GarageBand.
MTC almost for sure, if at all. Does GarageBand support MTC? I would assume it does.
You could use it to send LTC if you had the plugin, if you have an LTC generator.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it supports EU plugins.
The biggest problem with GarageBand, I mean, Source Connect is going to sample rate convert for you, but I mean, in a post context, GarageBand can only do 44.1, and that kind of just
that's
makes
not
it
a good idea.
no-go.
Yeah. For those of you using GarageBand as your main recording device, that's something to be aware of. And then we have Twisted Wave, which is not a DAW, it's not a
It's not a
workstation, it's an editor. So editors do not have this functionality that you need for this real-time interaction.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like same thing with Audacity, which looks a little bit more DAW-ish, but truly is
Still,
also a file
yeah.
editor. It's not really a DAW.
Yeah. Someone mentioned Fruity Loops. I'm not sure.
MTC almost
I suppose
for
you've
sure.
got Ableton as well, of course. Yeah, why not?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, Ableton for now would be MTC, but there is Ableton Sync, which seems to be possibly the heir apparent to something like ReWire.
Yeah, that's another
and
thing we should look at.
and we're looking into that
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And then Dorian says, do we need to switch to Pro Tools? Absolutely not. You know, there's so many
Avid
options.
thinks so.
Right. Well, of course, we all think everyone should use Source Connect.
That's right.
But
no, you can use anything, any DAW on
Yeah.
either side, or
Yeah.
even if you have hardware, if you have a
Yeah.
tape deck.
Yeah. Or as Glenn says, for talent, especially once we have the overdub mode, you don't need a DAW. It will be your backup recording. It will do your everything you need. As you know, when you're working with a remote engineer, it would be just everything you need. So once we've got that overdub mode in there, you won't need a DAW at all. Yeah. So we've got another couple of questions here. If I'm, a VO and I edit in Twisted Wave, what other software do I need? You will just need Source Connect. We will be doing some really good education on what you will need. Certainly.
The talent will have timeline. We'll have an updated version of remote timeline, and ideally, instead of making a VO talent set up a DAW to contain picture, the studio will send the talent a remote timeline file, and that will be the picture and the player, or DAW in a sense, all wrapped into one thing. So they don't really just double click and open it. essentially.
Mike was being ironic about Fruity Loops, but you can never tell the British sardonic humor, especially on the internet and text. Just no idea. You need some context.
Yeah. What about DEC? Right, Mike.
Right?
I
Yeah,
think,
there you go.
I think DEC will chase MTC.
That's what I got started with back in 1995.
Does Band in a Box support MTC?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Great. Well, I hope we've been able to answer everyone's questions. I'm just checking again if we've missed anything, but no, I think we got in there. So really, thank you everyone for coming in. And I know some of you have questions about Source Connect 4 upgrade, about the pricing. This is not the webinar for that. So if you have questions, please write to us. We're always available at our contact page or support at sourceelements.com. We can put that in there. Any other questions? And we'll keep this one short and finish up here. So thank you so much, everybody. Great for coming. Thanks.
Thank you.